You're tuned into the Fresh Ice Hockey Podcast, brought to you by Zeno Pucks. Here are your hosts, Andy and Brian Matusi.
All right, welcome back to the Fresh Ice Hockey Podcast. With you as always, I'm Andy Matusi with my brother Brian. And after what's been in the work for a couple of weeks, I've been trying to get a guest on the show. I've been in contact with him for a better part of, about a month and a half at this point, and just I'm dropping the ball on my end. I was finally able to get him on the show today. Before we bring him on here, Brian, how you doing, man?
I'm good. I'm a little tired. We both went to the Cleveland Monsters game last night, so got home late, stayed up late, and watched the Golden Knights and Utah game with my wife for a little while, and then now I'm tired as hell. So here we are.
Yeah, I was a little concerned when I got home last night. I was pretty hoarse from the game. I didn't know that I was going to have a voice to do the show today. More so, I also have another Monsters game to go to today, so all but guaranteeing I will have no voice come the end of this weekend. So without any further ado, I'm going to get to our guest because, like I said, I've been waiting a while to have him on here. Our guest today is Andrew Dibble. He is the owner of the Kalkaska Battlers. They are a semi-pro hockey team out of Michigan. Andrew himself is the owner of the team, and he is also an 8-year veteran of the United States Marine Corps. But I don't want to sit here and butcher his resume. I'm going to let him tell you his story. So I'm going to bring him on. Without any further ado, it's my pleasure to welcome to the show, Andrew Dibble. What's up, man?
Hey, what's going on, guys? Appreciate you having me on. I know we've been chatting for a while, so it's definitely awesome to get in front of you guys.
Yeah, no, man, I'm excited. Like I said, it's mostly just been us being busy. You know, Brian was actually in the process of moving the last couple of weeks, so that was a big factor too. And the rest of it was just me dropping the ball. So sorry.
It's all good. It's entertainment, show business. We're good. It's no big thing. If we're anything, we're adaptable.
Yeah, absolutely. So I want to jump right into it, man. I've done some research on your team, on the league for that matter, but I don't want to butcher anything. I'd rather you tell me your resume. You don't even have to start with the Battlers. You can start from the bottom, work your way up, however you want to do it, man.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll give a quick, as they say, long story short. So joined the military at 17, got out of the military after 8 years, became a skydiving bum, got super into marketing, ended up working with minor league baseball for a little while. And then when I moved to Michigan, I wanted to keep going with marketing, ended up getting with a team here, became a owner for a team called the Gaylord Snow at the time. And then last year I had the opportunity to move and kind of branch out on my own, and I wanted to do something. You nailed the Kalkaska name. I still have trouble saying it sometimes. But yeah, we decided to start a team in Kalkaska, incredible community that was really opening. We had shopped around for some rinks, and Kalkaska is where we settled in.
Nice, man. That's incredible. So I want you to kind of explain more to the league, because we have a lot of listeners on this show who are still new to hockey, so they might still only understand the NHL side of. What level would you describe this team or this league? Where would you place them?
Absolutely. So the best way I put it, a lot of people kind of know the baseball dynamics of single A, double A, triple A, pro, and that's usually how I describe it. Is baseball has, in the single A level, they have low A and high A. Yes. We're basically low A. So we do, our main goal, my main goal as an owner, is to feed players into the FPHL and the SPHL is what my goal is. And that was last year. We had 5 players go up into the FPHL, into the Fed, and we had 1 go into the SP as well. So that's basically what we are. We're single A is what we consider us. And it's just it's a good way to get a lot of guys. We kind of consider it a second chance league, where you get these guys that played juniors that didn't have the chance to move forward, whether it was family, financial, or whatever. We like to give those guys a chance to push forward and really try to make a name for themselves in hockey and see how high they can go.
Absolutely. So these aren't just people walking off the street. These are guys that have decorated hockey resumes that are just trying to give it a second go, pretty much, and still make a name for themselves.
Yeah, Absolutely.
Okay.
And it's crazy because we do have a wide variety. We've got guys that have experience in the Fed, the SB. There's a couple of teams in the league that have some guys that have records and resumes with the Coast, with the ECHL. And it's crazy. And then we've got one kid whose year of birth, which makes me feel real old, is 2005. I mean, we've got a 19-year-old that's on our team. We've got a couple of 22-year-olds, and then we've got someone up to 38, 39. I mean, it's a wide variety of players, but I think that's what makes a team successful is having the veteran presence, helping the young kids move up and figure out what professional hockey looks like.
I like that a lot. So, and I think it's good for the community too, especially small town. I want to say small town hockey, but essentially that's what it is in a sense. It's good to get the community together too, especially. I mean, you guys are in Michigan when you have the Red Wings, but it's just good, that good local hockey. And I feel like there's more grit behind it. I feel like it's more fun to watch.
Yep.
So, and I think it's cool to give other guys a second chance.
Absolutely. That's our motto. So we're small town hockey with a big town hockey feel is the way that we push through. I pride myself on marketing and that ability. And Kalkaska is a small community, but we have the advantage that 30 minutes away from us is Traverse City, which is where the Red Wings do
nice.
their prospect camps or their prospect games and all that. So we've got a good following, and Kalkaska has 100. We consider ourselves the toughest town in the mitten because when they pull our ice in our rink, but when they pull our ice in our rink, we have a roller derby team. And we have amateur like WWE wrestling style stuff going on at the rink too. So we joke around and say, no matter what season it is, you can watch someone get punched in the face.
Sounds good, man. Kalkaska sounds like my kind of place. Not that I promote violence. Anyway, I digress. So throughout the league, you guys are the APHL, if I'm understanding that correctly, right?
You are correct. And we're in the APHL, the American Premier Hockey League. We actually changed leagues last year. Last year, we were in the MIHL, which is the Michigan Independence Hockey League. Mm-hmm. And us as a team with the success that we had last year and the way that the growth was going, we wanted to make the transition to something that's going to create a bigger picture and more longevity with the team. So we decided to change to the APHL this season.
So you're not just giving these guys a second opportunity, you're growing the organization as a whole and trying to move the organization up as well.
Absolutely. And crazy enough, I'm actually the VP of the APHL as well.
Oh, are you really? Okay.
Yeah. So we're a nonprofit, kind of like the Fed. So I came on board, was doing a bunch of stuff, and we had some transitional period, and they needed a VP. So I said, "Yep, I'll step in." And it's basically run by a board of governors of all the teams in the league, and it just creates a very fair and welcoming environment for all teams.
I like that a lot. Brian, I'm not trying to keep you out of the loop here, but I'm going to ask one more question, and I'll let Brian take a dig at you. How many teams do you guys have in the league?
So right now we're at 8 teams. We had 9 at the beginning of the season, and unfortunately, one of the other teams up north their owner ended up having health issues, and they had to cease operations within the league. They may be coming back next season, depending on how his health goes. But we have 8 teams in the league spread across Michigan, Ohio, Indiana, New York, and Pennsylvania.
Nice. That's awesome. And we're close by. I mean, we're not right next door to you, but we're both in Ohio as well, Cleveland area. So you have to keep an eye out for that too. But I want to give Brian a chance to talk here because I have this tendency anytime we have a guest on the show to not stop talking. So I'm going to let him do some talking now and ask some questions.
Perfect.
So Dibs, the main thing that interests me, and especially when I find out we're talking to an organization owner, we've seen this process recently in the National Hockey League as leagues look to expand and grow and add teams. I want to ask somebody who is an owner like yourself, how does this process go from start to finish? Obviously, you have interest in buying a team or in becoming the owner of a team, but where does the process start, and what are the steps along the way from getting a rank to finding players and making a schedule and joining in the league? How do you kind of get this ball rolling and get it to the finish line?
Yeah, absolutely. So we actually have an application process through our league page. You can actually go in and apply, and through that application process, a lot of the questions that you just asked are addressed. do you have a rink? We don't have seating requirements, but we need a rink that's obviously going to be able to fulfill a professional hockey team. So, I mean, we have some places that only hold 100 people, but at this level, that's decent attendance as we grow. We're lucky enough to be in the Coliseum, and we've got 646 seats. Not that I've counted multiple times to figure out exactly how many we can fit in there, but application process to make sure that you have the finances behind it, the player interest behind it. We understand you're not going to be able to come in with a full roster, but we at least need to know that you've got some sort of player interest through it. We've got a team that just came in this year from Fort Wayne, Indiana. When they came in their application process, they had 20 strong already. They already had guys ready to go. And what we realize at this level, because it is a lower level, you'll get a lot of these beer league, we call it the beer league teams, but they play at a very higher level through that, that they're able to pull 5-10 guys from that have an interest of playing higher, that didn't think that they would have that chance. So we usually ask that you have someone basically as a captain that can help guide the ship with the ownership of finding players and recruiting. And then it's just, as much as I don't want to say it, it's cold calling. I think I called probably 15, 20 different schools, a couple of juniors teams saying, hey, if you guys need something, then let us know. But it also comes down to building relationships. I've got a good relationship with the Danville, with the Dashers hockey in the Fed, that when they have their training camps and they cut their guys and they have guys that are on the bubble, perfect. Send them to us. We'll develop them. We'll get film. We'll build an elite prospects resume for them. And then if any of your players get hurt and you need to bring someone on, or next season, we've developed these players. So let's help each other out and kind of do that up and down movement within their organization.
Nice. Another thing that I want to know is, and I don't know the right way to phrase this, but when you have, so you obviously you guys deal with all the scheduling, and if the league's run by kind of a board of all the teams' owners, how do you do your scheduling process then? Is it something where you all kind of get together, I guess, and kind of do it by hand, or is there a computer generated way you guys can fill out your schedules, or how do you kind of go about that?
Absolutely. So what we basically start is using kind of an AI generated schedule, and then go through and say, this is kind of where we're sitting. This works for us. This doesn't work for us. And then we will go to our respective rinks and say, do you guys have ice? And because we do it so far in advance, a lot of times the rinks will say, yep, no one else, none of the young kids teams, none of this have come in and scheduled yet. You guys have first dibs at everything. So we'll do that. And then we'll make adjustments accordingly. Hey, my rink has this Saturday available, but not this Sunday. So, and it's just from there, it's just fine tuning and making sure that we're able to adapt to each other and get those schedules done. Because there's some days that I know I've got a game that was scheduled, but now there's a tournament at our rink. So I'm like, no big deal. We'll adapt. We're actually going to try to do a winter classic and find an outdoor rink and just do some fun things and just kind of, yeah, like I said, if we're anything, we're adaptable. So we work together as a group. It's usually a 3 to 4 week process that we start. We've actually started the process, but we'll really go ham probably about December, January, and really start dialing on the schedule for this next upcoming season. And we'll actually leave in gaps, and we'll say, like, we'll have all our teams and then say team 9, 10, 11, 12. And we'll basically plan for expansion as well, that we can plug those guys in.
Nice. And what months does the league run from for its regular season?
Absolutely. Our regular season starts in October, usually mid. I think our first game this year is October 19th, somewhere around there. And then we'll go to March, April for regular season, and then playoffs will run into May.
Nice. Okay. How many games is the regular season?
It's 24 games, 12 home, 12 away is how it's split. We're actually looking this upcoming season, because we're looking at adding 3 to 4 teams if everything goes according to plan, and we'll actually probably move up to a 32 game schedule.
Oh, nice. Okay. That's wonderful.
So, I mean, you guys got a nice, healthy thing going here. I mean, everything seems to be running smoothly, and I mean, it's pretty impressive.
Yeah, no, it's great. And coming from the league that I went from, which was great. Like I have a good relationship with the owner of the other league, but we wanted the chance to grow, and we were given the chance, and things seemed to be really well put together to the point that they knew what they were doing, and we had some good chances to grow. And I want my guys to experience hockey at the highest professional level that I can. And if we can provide that at our level to say, hey, most of our games are spread between Michigan and Indiana, but there's a couple of times where we're going to drive out to New York. Like, you're going to get that feeling of that road trip, that camaraderie that you can build with your teammates on the road. Then we really like to be able to do that.
Awesome.
I love it.
Now, as far as travel is concerned, do you usually handle the travel as the owner, or do you have like a logistical expert that books I assume you guys do buses for travel or flights if you do flights, and handles all your hotels and all that kind of stuff?
No, so we're actually, because of the level we're at, and this is only our second year as an organization, right now we basically try to do compensation for gas. We'll have our guys carpool. Okay. We're going out to New York at the end of the season. We're getting a couple of 15-passenger vans. The logistical issue that we run into being in Kalkaska, there is no large bus organization. So in order for us to get a bus to take us somewhere, it would have to come from Grand Rapids, drive 3 hours north, pick us up, and then drive 3 hours back south. Like, it just doesn't logistically make sense. And right now we're all close enough that New York is a 16-hour drive, but we plan on splitting it up. And I'm a New York kid at heart. At some point, I'm probably going to raid my mom's house with 20 hockey players and just have them all stay there. I'm sure she's going to thoroughly enjoy it. Then I'm lucky enough that my girlfriend, who is 100%, she's a part owner of the team, but she actually is the GM for a Fairfield Marriott up here in northern Michigan. So we just did a really cool commercial with Fairfield, just a kind of satire commercial. Our guys lifting weights and gear and snuggling in a bed. So we've got a good relationship with the hotel. So we're able to get some decent rates for our guys to travel. But a lot of our games, unless they're double headers, which doesn't happen a lot this season, but they'll commute back and forth. I mean, other than the New York games, the furthest we're going is 4.5 hours.
I suppose that's true. Okay. Well, that's always interesting, because I mean, you hear, and I mean, obviously, like when we talk about the NHL, these guys are on private jets and stuff, but even like as high up as the AHL, a lot of those games are bus travel too. And so the logistics of the travel always kind of fascinates me, because it's like, we're dealing with still professional level hockey, but it's not where the owners are, billionaires, where they're like, just hop on my jet and go to California and then fly back the next day. I'm always fascinated in situations like this, how organizations are able to handle all this and get their guys to the rink on time and get them back home and stuff. So that's pretty cool how you guys are able to still make it all work.
Well, one of the other crazy parts about it too is, because we only play Saturdays and Sundays, these guys have jobs outside of this and whatnot. I mean, so we only practice the Fridays before home games as a team because I've got guys that are commuting from Indiana. I've got guys that are commuting from Ohio. A lot of them live downstate. So if we have a game in Detroit, I'm not going to make the guys drive 3 hours to us and then drive back down. So for our away games, a lot of our guys are closer than what they are for home games. But luckily we have a super committed group that they do come up here, and then our local guys will practice at the rink throughout the week. And it's definitely the biggest challenge that we have in Kalkaska compared to, say, the team that's based out of Rockford, like the Grand Rapids area. All those guys can play with each other during the week, but we don't have that ability. So it's definitely a challenge for us to build that camaraderie when we get the chance to.
That's what I like. And the one thing I'm really liking about hearing all this is you really get an inside look at how everything starts and works its way from the ground up. That's one thing. This is super informational, not just to guys like Brian and me, but to people who are new to the hockey community in general. This is a really cool behind the scenes to see how things start from bare bones and go all the way up.
Absolutely. And we look at little things. Like, one of my big purchases, like I said, obviously we're going into our second year. One of my big purchases in this next off season probably will be like a 16-passenger bus, like one of the old buses that runs through the town as like whatever their transit is, because we don't have to get 25 guys from Kalkaska. I usually have to get 10 to 15. So if I can give that little bit of buffer and a little bit of help to keep the team together and to kind of alleviate a little bit of cost, then I know they're appreciative and it'll help the team as a whole.
think that's a really good idea. So my biggest thing, or not my biggest thing, one of the things that I've been wanting to know, and I mean, ultimately it's none of my business, but what do you guys generally charge for admission?
Yeah, absolutely. So we do the way that we run it and the way that we're running it this year. It's $10 for an adult, $5 for kids 10 and under, 2 and under are free. And then we do a veteran discount for which is $2 off, which is $8. But then we've got little promotions going. We're going to start handing out flyers. It's primarily an analytical thing. I'm a super numbers guy when it comes to promotions and stuff. That if they bring in the flyer that they got while they were out in town, it's $1 off. So, but on average, it's 10 for adults and 5 for kids.
I'd say that's pretty reasonable. I don't think that's unfair at all. $10 to watch a hockey game is always a good deal in my book. So, and I was going to actually ask you, being a veteran, if you guys do military discounts. So, good on you
absolutely.
for that one.
We do military discounts, and then we've actually this upcoming week, the 9th, we've actually got our military appreciation game where veterans and active duty are free. So that's my baby.
Right out of my mouth.
Yep, that's my baby. I love every single game that we do, but I find it real hard to not get emotional on those days. Like I tell people there's a couple, probably about an hour before game time, where I'll put in noise canceling headphones and I'm like, if you need me, tap me on the shoulder. Otherwise I need to just sit and think. Yeah. The military one's a little harder. So there's we have the cool process. The cool thing this year, one of my assistant captains last year, he's still an assistant captain this year, even though he can't make a lot of games. He actually just got married to an active duty naval officer, and they're living in South Carolina. Well, they're coming up here for the game. We're putting him in our lineup, and she's doing the puck drop for him. As a naval officer. So that'll be super special for us too. They're just a good group. They're 2 really cool people. My girlfriend and I are super close with them. So it'll be special for us.
That's incredible. I love that. Since we're on the topic of military stuff, I should probably stop here. We'll do sponsor stuff right now, because this one will give me an opportunity to tell you about the company that sponsors our show, and it'll give me an opportunity to talk about the Warrior for Life Fund, who does not sponsor our show, but we are very close with them. So I always take a chance to shout them out any chance I get. But first, we're going to start with our friends over at Xenopucks, who allow this show to happen. Xenopucks, they make a off-ice practice puck designed to use. Pretty same concept as a green biscuit, if you know what I'm talking about. Just something, ice time's not always an option. This thing's way better than a green biscuit or anything else you can get your hands on. It's the same size and weight as a regulation hockey puck. This thing keeps disappearing. Same size and weight as a regulation hockey puck. It is not made of rubber, though, so I don't ever recommend people use it for pickup games, because I've been hit with it before, and not even during a game. It was my buddy and I were kicking it around, and this thing hurts. But it's phenomenal. Where you can use it on concrete or asphalt or carpet or tile or hardwood, and it's like using a real puck on ice. It's insane. I don't know what witchcraft they use to develop this, but it's absolutely phenomenal. They make a great puck. They've been very good to us. So for you or anybody else who might be interested in picking one of these up, you can head over to xenopucks.com right now and pick up one of these. I believe they're $18 a pop. And also be sure to check out their merchandise selection, because they got some pretty cool stuff on there as well. And be sure to follow them on Instagram at Xenopucks, XENOPUCKS. And you, sir, because you're on the show and because of how close we are with the guys over at Xenopucks, they're actually going to send you one of these for free because you were a guest on our show. So you're going to get one.
I love that. I love that. They pull our ice in May time frame, and we have a lot of guys that do a lot of dry work. So that's awesome. They'll be pumped to try that out, and we'll definitely get them rocking on our team.
They're gonna love it. And Xenopucks actually just got their product in with company Pure Hockey, so they're really starting to come up now. They got over 11,000 followers on Instagram now. That they're really starting to grow and do very well for themselves. And it's just run by 2 real good dudes that I consider us good friends with now. But they grew up in South Florida, so ice time wasn't always an option for them, and they wanted a puck that gave you the real feel. And I believe it was one of their dads is an engineer and was able to develop this for them. And then they were like, hey, we should market this. And here we are.
No,
And
that's
for the
awesome. We
record-
have a dry room upstairs too. That'll be great. Yeah, our guys are pumped. I've got a player from South Naples or from Naples, Florida, so I'm sure he'll love it.
Oh, he'll love it. I can tell you right now. The other thing is these things are durable as all hell. I mean, you could wring this thing off the pipe 100 times in a row, and it'll hold its form. They're pretty
Sweet.
solid. And like I mentioned earlier, I don't know what they make them out of, and it's a trade secret, and I intend to help keep it that way. So
Absolutely.
yeah, I don't want to be out here giving their secrets away. But so yeah, I will link up with Steve. He's one of the two guys. And I'll get your contact information from you after the show, and I'll make sure to get one of these headed your way. And additionally, once we get our merch line out, which I've been working on that since last season, we're still a new show. Well, a newer, I would say. Once we get our merch line out, I'll be sure to send you a hat or something cool for being on the show. Once we get an actual merch line, I'll have you go through the list and pick out something you want, and we'll send it your way. So
same thing with you guys. I'll shoot you a couple of pictures of the jerseys we're rocking this year, and I'll get you guys both out a jersey for our season this year.
And we will be sure to wear them on the show.
Yeah.
I mean,
we've got
everybody we've had on this show, we've stayed in contact with, and I mean, it's for us, it's about. I mean, part of it's networking, but at the same time, it's about building friendships, and we all know how tight the hockey community is. So, I mean, I certainly don't want this to be the last time we talk to each other as while we're doing this show today, and then just be like, all right, Godspeed. So.
Yeah, and we got we do a lot of specialty nights. I like doing it. I think it's fun. So we've got our 3 primary jerseys. We've got reds, blue, and white, but then we've got our military jerseys. We're doing a blackout night this year where the jersey's gray and black. And then we rebrand because Kalkaska is known as Trout Town. We rebrand once a year as the Battle Trout. And it's just this gnarly looking trout, but it's this grunge look of hot pink, green, and blue. They're really sharp looking jerseys, and it's a fun night. So
nice.
I love it. And I actually have, regarding promos, I have a question. So both of you, please don't let me forget. But before we keep going, I want to talk about Warrior for Life Fund real quick. And I don't know how much you have or have not listened to the show, but I'm going to hop right into it. Warrior for Life Fund. So they are a nonprofit organization themselves. And what they do is they get transitioning military families, whether they're coming back from deployment or they're just transitioning back into the military or into the civilian world. They help the service members and their families transition back into that normal lifestyle. And they do it through the game of hockey. They have their own hockey team. It's called Warrior for Life Hockey or Warrior Hockey. And they get these guys out on the ice. A lot of them are like retired or former special operations guys. They get them out on the ice. They're partnered with the Boston Bruins Alumni Association, and they've partnered with the NHL as well. And they get these guys out on the ice to play games all the time. They play against a lot of former NHL players or NHL alumni. They do these events all over the country. They just had one in California a couple months ago. They did one in Virginia Beach. They got one coming up in December in Boston, and they're playing against the 2011 Stanley Cup champion Boston Bruins team. So that's going to be really cool. We've had a couple of their guys on the show too. Bob Pizzini, who's actually just a personal friend of ours, and coincidentally, he's an ambassador for the Warrior for Life Fund. But we were able to get a couple of former Bruins on the show too, that are also ambassadors for Warrior for Life, and they were on here. I mean, you can go back and check out the episodes. They do a really good job at breaking down what they do for veterans. But it's trying to kind of still build that camaraderie or keep that camaraderie alive that guys like you and I are used to. And hockey's a great way to do that. And it's just cool to see all these guys that have been through so much and then see them out on the ice with smiles on their faces. It's a big thing. Of course, it's not free or cheap to do, so they run off of donations. So to anyone listening or watching, if you're interested in helping out the Warrior for Life Fund, you can head over to warriorforlifefund.org and make a donation today. And while you're at it, I brought up Bob Pizzini, who was the first guest we had on here from that show or from that organization. And he's also an award-winning author. So head over to Amazon.com right now. Check out his book, Elevate Your Leadership. It's a phenomenal book. and that was just a plug for a friend. So.
No, that's awesome. I love that idea, and actually, I'll go and look at it. So we have Warrior Hockey out here, which is the same concept, like the Michigan Warriors. They're all vets, and it's all run the same way. So what I'll do personally is we're auctioning off our jerseys after this military game, and we'll donate a portion to that organization with our a couple other military organizations as well. So I'll definitely get that information for you, and we'll give a little bump to them. Go on their website and give a little donation on behalf of the Battlers, because we have a couple of players that play for the Michigan Warriors out here. So it's something near and dear to me. I think it's something that vets need to do, especially if they're battling with PTSD, any of that struggle. I think keeping that teamwork and keeping those teammates definitely helps a little bit with mental state. I mean, I know owning the team and having these guys in my corner helps me a ton. So I love organizations like that.
Yeah, it's always nice to just have to one know, but two to feel that you're never alone. So
absolutely,
it's really cool. And as far as Michigan Warriors go, my recruiter actually played for them. I don't know if he still does. He's an older guy now. He's probably he's got to be close to, if not in his 50s at this point, but he did play for them
That's
for a
awesome.
while. Yeah, so good dude, great recruiter, hell of a medic, just an all-around great guy. So
was that Whit?
Heck yeah.
Yeah, that was Whit. Yeah. So no, I know Warrior for Life would appreciate you guys doing that too. So, and they're all super good people over there. Brian and I have had nothing but good experiences with them, and we still keep in contact with them. We're very lucky for two guys who had no idea how to do a podcast or anything. We're just two hockey fans. We're like, yeah, let's just start a podcast and hear ourselves talk, because we're always talking about hockey. And it's just, this is just kind of gone a little further than we ever expected it to. So we're very grateful for that. And now, I mean, when we started the show, I was reaching out to people left and right for guest slots, and fortunately, this time you actually reached out to us and said, "Hey, you guys looking for a guest? I'm an owner of a hockey team," and I was like, "Hell yeah, I'm looking for a guest." So
love it.
Yeah, man. No, it was perfect timing. So
no, but I feel like those are the best podcasts. I mean, you get someone. I feel like the best podcasts are getting people that are just passionate about something, that are able to talk about it, and it's what the basis is for it. I mean, you can get someone to come on and talk about something and do whatever, but you get the passion, and that's where the entertainment comes from. So I greatly appreciate you guys having me on too. I mean, it's been fun so far.
Yeah, man. Go ahead, Bro Guy.
I was gonna say, and I think it's really good to have you on and kind of talk about this as well. And this doesn't get mentioned a lot, but the necessity to have leagues like the APHL around, it's so important, because as we can try and continue to grow the game of hockey and get the next generation hooked on it, and then the next generation of kids is all about, these devices and always having screen time. And so getting kids hooked on hockey, I think it's very important in leagues like this, where the admission prices aren't through the roof like the NHL. It's hard to get these kids to the rink when you're paying $100 a ticket. Now parents are like, how the hell am I going to get my kid to the rink? Or so when they have opportunities to go see, go watch hockey, a professional level of hockey, and they're not paying exorbitant ticket prices, I think having leagues like this is amazing, because you can get the experience of watching a pro level game without, shaking out your wallet and your piggy bank every time you want to go.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's one of the big things I tell my players too. I'm like, listen, guys, I know you're trying to move up, and for you, this is a lower level of hockey, but to these kids, you're in the NHL. Like you're 100% pros to them. You're in the NHL. You're a professional hockey player to them. There is no difference between you and Crosby in their eyes, because they get to watch a professional hockey game. They get to meet the players at the end of the game, get autographs. We do a couple of skate with the teams throughout the season. So it's definitely driving that in. And we've had parents come in like, oh, we didn't even know you guys were here. Like, we're super pumped about it. We're not huge hockey people. And then they buy season tickets the next season. I mean, it's just building that love for hockey.
It's exactly. And those kids don't forget those experiences. I'll share an experience of my own, and this is so out of pocket, but the first time I genuinely remember any interaction with a pro athlete, I was at a Milwaukee Brewers baseball game when I was a kid. They were playing the Chicago Cubs, and Joe Girardi, who's a now former manager of the Yankees. He was playing for the Cubs, and he pointed up at me in the crowd as I was waiting for a ball, and he said, "This is for the little guy," and threw it up. I was probably all of 6 or 7 years old. I still remember it like it was yesterday. I got an autograph from a Brewers catcher, Chad Moeller, years ago, too. It was one of the first autographs I got. I still remember the interaction to this day. Like, you're making memories for the kids that they'll never forget, and it helps them build a lifelong interest in a sport. And so the role that leagues like this play in getting the next generations hooked on hockey is so vital, and it's so awesome to see that the owners are just as passionate as the fans are.
I mean, I'm passionate to the point that I get excited when I get my players' autographs. Like it's silly, but I love having these guys' autographs, and it's not even on the point that like, oh man, one day these guys are going to go pro and I'm going to make money off it. No, I just genuinely enjoy having guys that are that passionate about it. But for me, they give everything they have on that ice. And I tell them all the time, like, guys, I have the easy part. All I have to do is the paperwork and run the team. You guys are playing hockey. Like, I have the easy part of this job. So I make sure to tell them and do whatever I can to say, like, I greatly appreciate what you guys do. And it's so weird, like talking about experiences and stuff. Myself and probably 10 of the players signed some kid's face last night because he wanted the whole team to sign his face. I'm like, what is going on right now? Like, this is very strange, but all right, let's do it.
That's a new one for me. I haven't heard that one before.
Oh yeah, no, there's 2 kids walking around asking everyone to sign their face, and they're like, "Dibs, sign my face." I'm like, "No, I'm the owner. I know." Like this, like, come on, man. I'm like, all right, I guess I'm signing a kid's face.
Nice. Hey, man, it's all for the kids.
And
yeah, exactly.
Like we just talked about, that kid will never forget that either.
He is going to school with 15 Sharpied signatures on his face on Monday, so I don't know how they're going to deal with it. But
he'll be rocking the war paint.
Yeah, I bet his mom is pumped.
Yeah, I was saying,
she was standing right there encouraging it. I don't know.
Oh, okay.
He's gonna get sent home from school on Monday.
Yeah, looking like Post Malone.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I didn't even think about that. I did have 2 questions that I still wanted to ask you that I almost forgot. The first one was for the promos. How do you guys come up with what promos you're going to do, when you're going to do them? Is that something that you personally come up with, or is that something that you meet with multiple people on and sit down and discuss?
It starts out as my brainchild. I usually come up with your basic ones. Your cancer, your military are the 2 big ones. Every once in a while, we'll throw a first responder in there. Other than that, it's kind of talking to the team, gauging if anyone has anything special. My girlfriend Megan and I have talked about it, just doing, like, what would be something that hasn't been done before? Like, we want to do things that haven't been done before that would be fun. Like, we're planning a Alice in Wonderland night at some point, just because it would be cool with different colors and the Mad Hatter look and all that. But then just trying to figure out something that we can play to. So we're doing a How the Grinch Stole Hockey, which isn't super uncommon, but one of the things that we're doing our teddy bear toss at night as well. So we're going to have all the players collecting the teddy bears, and we're going to have the Grinch sneak onto the ice. And as he does that, one of our guys who's a known fighter is going to drop gloves with the Grinch and save Christmas for us. Like, it's
amazing.
Just trying to find those little things that are going to create entertainment, that are going to make fans happy, that it's just going to be good stuff. But I like to look to one of the teams that I follow a lot for their promo nights is the Marksmen, the Fayetteville Marksmen in the SP, because they have they have a really good marketing team. So I don't like to copy what teams do, but I like to see what works and what I can build off of that. So
absolutely,
it's just sitting in the off season when hockey's not going on, thinking, all right, what can I do that's going to be fun, that is going to give the boys a good show and give the community something to kind of rally around.
Yeah, totally.
That's incredible. I'm a big fan of the guy fighting the Grinch. That sounds great.
Yeah, that's
gonna be great. Well, we luck out that we have the wrestling here, and one of the wrestling refs who does everything is actually, he does the Grinch, like he does the Grinch stuff around the community during the year. So I'm like, you want to fight one of my guys on Christmas? He's like, yep, I'm in. So
Nice.
it'll be entertaining. Keegan. He's got a fighter's name, but he actually did Ice Wars. If you don't know what Ice Wars is, synthetic ice. Synthetic ice. It's like from Goon. Synthetic ice. They don't have a stick, but they have helmet and UFC gloves on and beat the crap out of each other. So we've got Keegan McGraw, who his nickname is Patty Whack, but he's one of our fighters, but a very good, talented hockey player too. But he's talking about getting a mohawk, dyeing his hair red for Christmas, doing the whole take off the helmet, bucket spin, just making it super entertaining before he fights the Grinch.
Nice.
I love it, man. That's one thing I like about what's the word I'm looking for? I can't think of a team or a term. I don't want to say lower tier teams or leagues because that sounds terrible. And that's not what I'm saying. But
no, you're good.
That's what I like about those is that you're far more open as to what you're able to do with the on ice product because you don't have all these rules and regulations restricting everything. Whereas you're not going to
just say you hate Gary Bettman, Andrew. Just say Gary Bettman has run the NHL into the ground and he's no fun. Just say that.
Well, you just said it, so I'm just going to agree with it. So
yeah, no, I agree with it. No, you're absolutely right, though. It's minor hockey leagues definitely tend to have way better promo and theme nights, and it seems like the fan interaction's a lot better because it's just the nature of the beast. The environments are usually more intimate, it seems like, and yeah, no, I honestly I would love to come up and see that see how the Grinch stole hockey. I would totally love to see that.
I was gonna say within 40 minutes of talking to you, I'm already like, dude, I gotta get up to Kalkaska and watch a game, man.
Yeah.
So
well, you guys let me know. We'll give you the promo schedule. Some of our biggest nights are gonna be the Battle Trout night. We're doing a doubleheader that weekend, so we're rocking some bright pink jerseys Saturday and some white ones Sunday. But that's always a huge weekend for us. And then our Christmas one, we're doing Pirates and Princesses. We have a semi-pro like wood bat baseball league up here, the Traverse City Pit Spitters. We're doing a slap shots and home runs where we're going to do satire. Instead of them dropping a puck, they're going to drop a baseball because we're flip-flopping in baseball season. We're going to come out and do a first pitch slap shot type deal. So
there you go.
It's just building with the community and building around and creating just that so fans and people up here have something to do.
Nice.
Oh yeah. Man, that's great. See, and that's what I like is getting other aspects of the community involved. In this case, other sport organizations. I think that's phenomenal. And that's exactly how you grow your brand too, is offering to put your name out there or someone else's name out there in exchange for them doing the same for you. That's kind of how we first got started with Xeno Pucks was like, hey, you guys are growing, we're growing, we should team up. And they were like, hell yeah, man, let's do it. So I think that's great. And the one thing I really have liked about listening to this, and I can tell because you're not trying to talk about it, it's just coming out naturally, how dedicated you are to your fans and the guys on the ice. Like I can just tell by listening to you talk, your number one priority is fan experience and the morale of your players. And that is such a huge thing, such an important thing. I know, just speaking as a fan, any owner that puts the fans first is going to have nothing but success. So
absolutely. And that's honestly, we're doing a fan appreciation night at the end of the season, but it is honestly, we were welcomed so unbelievably graciously by the city of Kalkaska and the surrounding community that you'll see me. I joke around when people are like, I'd love to meet you, Dibs. I'm like, cool. I'll be the guy that's running around like an absolute maniac on game day. Like you'll know who relaxing. I am. But but part of it is literally walking around and I'll go and I'll sit with the fans and I'll talk to the fans. And it's, hey, are you guys having a good time? Is there anything you want to see? Is there anything that we can do for you? We just, and it didn't seem like a big deal when we did it, but we got popcorn holders that are Zambonis and we sold out of them within the first period. We're like, we're going to do this. These are going to be fun. Let's see how they do it. So my girlfriend and her daughter and I sat and assembled 40 of them the other night. Like, all right, we'll see how they sell. They're gone by the end of the first period. But it's little things that just build into. We got our mascot this year, which was huge. He's a Revolutionary War guy named Ernest, which is based off of the team name and all that. But it's what I can do to make the fans have a good time. And we have some diehard fans. We started off last season, I think 1-10, and our fans are at every single game cheering us on. all that. Last night, they got a chant going because someone started wanting to fight one of our players. They brought tissues out and were shaking tissues and chanting scoreboard because we were up 3-1. Like,
Nice.
our fans are phenomenal.
Nice. Man, there's nothing better than a loyal fan base, too. Man, I mean, the
Yeah.
fans really do. Obviously, the on-ice products is important, but the fans really do make the game. So,
yeah, absolutely. And we're lucky. I mean, we're lower level hockey, but we've got anywhere. Last year we averaged 105 in attendance. We had some games that had 500-600, which is not bad. We're 100 away from some of what the Fed games are producing. Like, we have a fan base and we're building it each year. And part of that comes to the guys going out in the community doing stuff. We just worked with the Department of Natural Resources and did an obstacle course with the Army National Guard. Like, it's getting our guys out there and getting them involved. We do a after school program. The Battlers have battle against obesity, battle against illiteracy, and battle against bullying, which are 3 big things we're doing, getting into schools and getting the community involved, but also showing that we actually care. The whole umbrella is called Battlers Care. So
nice. That's really awesome. And I think being as small as of an organization as you guys are, how big of an impact you're making on the community is absolutely incredible. So I really commend you guys for that. Brian, I'm sorry, dude, if I keep cutting you off. Every time I look over, Brian's just like,
I've asked the questions that I had in mind to ask, so I'm good. Unless something comes to my mind, I'm just listening.
All right,
that's my bad. Sure. I'm cutting you off too. I'm just super passionate about it. It comes down to like it's not even a brag on myself. It's a brag on the guys in the community and stuff. Like, I'm just passionate about doing it. It's something I never thought I'd be able to do, and here I am, year 2.
Yeah, and part of success at running a team like that is passion for the product. I think any team owner that's not excited about their product, I feel like it's doomed to fail. So the fact that you're pouring your heart and soul to this, and you're at the rink every night, and you're coming up with promo ideas and stuff, I think that's among the most important factors for your organization's success. And the fact that you're saying you're getting increased attendance and you're getting increased season seat holders, I think that speaks volumes about, seeing the results of the work you put in.
Yeah, absolutely. And we do things like it'll be released next week when we do our game. We had a fan that he's a rapper, like he's a musician and all that stuff. He just did an entire song that basically the hook is, we got to fight, we got to battle, who let the battlers out. Nice. That he did an entire song for us. And it's just cool. Like, year 1 was just getting our name out there, and now we've got people approaching us that want to be a part of the organization, and they want to do that stuff for us. And it's taking care of our players. I've got to deal with our players that they get $5 off of every single jersey that's sold that has their number on it. Like, it's just making sure that it's not quite a big NIL deal as most people, but it's something that they get a little extra money in their pocket, and they can be proud of someone wearing their number and name.
Yeah.
That's right. I do have one question that I can't believe Andrew hasn't asked, because he's usually a pretty big fiend about this stuff. Does your rink have a goal horn?
It does. So, yes and no. So we had one put in, but it was way too loud. Like, it was a couple of air horns that they brought in, and it was too loud, and it didn't quite set up the way that it did. But we have a custom goal song that plays very loudly when we do it. We are trying to get a couple of truck horns, but we also have the ability that a couple of our dedicated fan base have got the compressed air horn.
Yeah.
Yep. They bring it out. One of them actually has like 3 truck horns hooked up to a like an air compressing system. So we've got multiple goal horns. Plus, we gave away some loud cups last year. So there's a lot of noise going on when we score.
All right, good. And I mean, at the end of the day, too, I mean, you said you have a goal song that plays. You could always just do an audio recording of a horn, too. I mean, there's plenty of MP3 files out there.
Oh, that's exactly what it is. So it's 2 long goal horns, a cannon boom, and then our song, and then another cannon boom, and then it finishes it out. So we 100% play a goal horn.
Okay, there you go.
Nice.
Well, you got enough. Brian, I sure am a stickler about that. So
yeah. Oh my God, it's like taking a 10-year-old to a game. If he doesn't like the goal horn, you got to hear about it to the entire game.
Or if the team
that was one of the first things one of the first things we did when we went to the So our arena is called the Coliseum, not the Coliseum, but the
I
Coliseum.
thought I heard you say
K-A-L.
that earlier. I wasn't sure if that was
Nope.
intentional. Okay.
No, it is legit called the Coliseum, and it's one of the first things when we went and scouted out the area. We're like, we need a goal horn, and John, he's basically the director of the Cal, is basically 100% said, whatever you guys need, we'll do it for you. We want hockey to come back. We're 100% on board with you, and we're lucky enough that he's a on ice official, a hockey player, a hockey lover. So we have some of the best ice out of the league. So it works out for us.
Nice.
Awesome.
Yeah, I am very, very strict on goal horns. I'm a firm believer that if you don't have a goal horn, don't even play the game. So
yeah, we got our recording.
All right, hey man, that's all that matters. So as long as there's something, there's one. I want to say, I think it's the Chicago Wolves, if I'm not mistaken. They don't have like a goal horn. They use a siren, and I can't stand it. I don't.
Yeah, that's weird.
It doesn't seem exciting to me. And maybe, I mean, I'm sure their fans love it. I don't care. The Milwaukee Admirals, their quote unquote goal horn is an absolute atrocity. It's a recording of a train horn, but it sounds like it was recorded on a ham radio and you can barely hear it. So I'm like, ugh, I don't know. I think that's just a big part of the fan experience. So at least for me,
I think so too. Nope, I'm right there. Right there with you. I am 100% in agreement.
Sure.
What's that, Brian?
I said it definitely gets you energized for sure, like hearing one during a game. I mean, you think a lot of like the really loud ones out like in the NHL, like Chicago, Nashville. Those are some pretty loud ones. But I think that definitely, again, and at any level, I mean, college, even high school, just something loud and rambunctious to get the fans up off their asses after a goal. I mean, the goal itself usually is enough to get people to jump up, but when you include even louder noise than the crowd cheering, I think it really adds energy to the room. So it's definitely cool that you guys do that.
Well, it's just associated with it as well. I mean, there's a goal scored. Our fans are now going to know that it's going to have a horn. You're going to hear a cannon blast, and you're going to hear our goal song. It's just how it works. It's something they can get used to. And then for me, it's all about memory invoking as well. They could be, I can't remember off the top of my head what the actual name of our goal song is, but when they hear it on the radio, the first thing that's going to come to mind is a Kalkaska Battlers goal. And then they're going to want to go to a hockey game. And then I got another butt in a seat.
That's right.
Absolutely. That's great logic right there. But to add to that, I had brought one of my friends so my wife and I are season ticket holders for the Cleveland Monsters, Columbus's AHL affiliate.
Yep.
And I brought my buddy to a Monsters game last season, and they got shut out that game. And we were walking outside. He goes, well, I'm pissed off I didn't get to hear the goal horn. So that just adds to what I was saying. Like, I know it's not just me. And ironically now, or not ironically, but now this season, the Monsters have decided that they're going to blast the goal horn before the start of every game. So that's still cool. So I do think that really does go a long way. I know it's kind of a silly thing to focus on, but it really does have an impact on the fan experience.
Absolutely.
So, thanks for putting me on blast, Brian.
Yeah, I am usually the one sitting next to you, so I'm like, I might as well.
Yeah,
I love it.
Well, and another thing it's good for too is sometimes you're not looking and you miss the goal, like me last night for one of the Monsters goals, and then you hear I think it was was
it the game winner?
No, it was the tying one.
Okay. Down at the other end.
Yeah, I was looking the other way, and everybody was jumping up and cheering. I'm like, but they do the same exact type of cheer for a fight that they do for a goal in that arena. So you don't know what you're missing, and so I was. Then the horn, obviously, I let you know what happened. So
for what it's worth, he wasn't just looking the other way. He was the jackass in the crowd that decides to have conversations about life during a hockey game. So while he's looking away talking, there's puck going in at the other end, and I jump up right in his face and start screaming, and he's like, "What the fuck did I just miss?"
Yeah.
But no, I mean, it's a valid point, especially me walking. I have to go behind the scenes. I have to do all that stuff. If I hear a goal horn, I'm like, all right, cool, we scored. Like I'm good. Like I'll go back and watch the replay later. But for me, I'm behind the scenes at all times during the game. I usually 3-hour period, I usually sit for a total of 13 seconds. So it's good to have that too. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, I mean, it is good. It's also psychological warfare against the other team because eventually you start filling them in and it starts to get really annoying real quick. So,
oh yeah, I had a team when I was an owner for the Snow. We were up, I think 7-0, and one of their people came to us like, "All right, you're up. Like, can you stop using the horn?" And I said, "Absolutely not. Play better."
Yeah.
Like,
we're here longer now.
Yep, exactly.
So it just, and I mean, even I've seen in interviews with NHL players, they're like, my least favorite thing in the whole league is playing in Chicago because I can't stand hearing them play Chelsea Dagger when the Hawks score. And again, it's all psychological warfare in a sense. So it's, again, I think it's a necessity. Some people think, wow, you're way too attached to that, but it's, in my eyes, it's an absolute necessity for the game.
Yep, I think it's got a lot of meaning just outside of signaling a goal. Like, I think there is a lot of other pieces that attach to it. So I'm right on board with you.
Good. I'm glad I'm not alone. And,
you are not alone, sir. I've got your 6.
Thanks, man. Nice. I like that. So one thing I wanted to ask you, I want to kind of shift over to the military side of things. Brian usually likes this stuff because I don't really talk about military stuff too much. So when I do, he kind of likes to hear some of it. But I just wanted to know what your military career entailed.
Yeah, absolutely. So joined right at 17. My dad, grandpa were all Marines. So I came home at 16, told my mom I met with a Marine Corps recruiter, and she said, "Cool, where do I sign?" Not to get me out of the house, but
yeah,
she knew it was coming. She knew it was coming. It was just a matter of time. So joined at 17. I went to boot camp in Parris Island in South Carolina because I'm an East Coast kid. I'm from New York originally.
Yeah.
Went to Parris Island and then ended up going to my MOS school, California and all that. Deployed to Iraq for 6 months, right in my first year of the military. Came back and I got sent again for another 6 months. Shortly thereafter, I actually went to an I&I station after that, which is where we train reservists. But part of the big part of I&I is we also take care of all the funeral honors and all that stuff in that geographical area. So over 3 years, I probably did close to 300 funerals.
That track.
Yeah, for veterans, for active duty. Where we're the ones that unfortunately have to go and knock on the doors in the middle of the night for KIAs and stuff. So it was a little rough, but it was definitely eye-opening. And then we did a lot of community service, did the Toys for Tots stuff. And then my last 2 years in the military, I actually was in Okinawa working for the commanding general of Marine Corps bases Japan, but also got the chance to be a rifle range instructor and a martial arts instructor. So
nice.
Did a lot of really cool stuff. Always volunteered for things, as crazy as that is, just because I wanted to do it. And I had always told myself if I had gone past 10, I would have stayed in career. But I hit 8, and basically it was right at the as we were slowing down for Iraq and Afghanistan. I said, a couple of things didn't quite go the way I wanted them to coming out of Japan. So I said, I'm going to get out. I'm going to go to school. So started going to school. I finished my master's, my MBA in marketing December 1st. And then I'll get another master's in education and start teaching through that. So military did a lot of cool stuff for me. It was a good 8 years. They say you have 3-year friends in the military, but I've got 3 really good friends that I talk to that I'm still in. But it's also one of those things where I can take a vet and we could have never met and we could sit and have a 14-hour long conversation and never run out of something to talk about. So,
or in this case, an hour-long podcast. So
exactly.
Yeah. That's cool. It's funny because like I mentioned to you before the show started, I was Army myself, but I feel like every Marine I've ever talked to has been stationed in Okinawa. That's all. I don't think I've met. Obviously, I know not every Marine has, but it seems like all the ones I've met have. So I just always think that's funny. Like, yeah, I was in Okinawa. Oh, I was in Okinawa. Then I was stationed in Okinawa. I'm like, Jesus Christ, they just send is that in processing for the Marine Corps Okinawa?
For me, it was honestly, I was in Lejeune. I had finished my second deployment out of North Carolina, and I went to New York from there, and I was talking to my career planner. He's like, well, California is not an option, so you're going to Lejeune. I'm like, is that my only option? Like, I don't want to go back to North Carolina. I was like, I don't like Jacksonville. And he's like, well, I guess you could go to Okinawa. I'm like, yep, I'm in. I'll take it.
Yeah.
I'll go. Don't send me back to North Carolina. I'll go to Japan for 2 years.
Yeah, I mean, we had a cousin that was stationed there, and he loved it. So, speaking of Josh, Brian, but yeah, I mean, I've never heard any bad things about it. I just think it's funny that all of them that I seem to talk to have been to Okinawa. So,
Yeah.
And I mean, I had a very like, I don't want to say boring. As far as locations go, my Army career was boring. I went to basic at Fort Benning, Georgia, and then I was stationed at Fort Stewart, Georgia. So I spent my whole career there. I did a deployment to Afghanistan in 2012. It was a 9-month deployment. And after that, when I went in, I had the mentality of I'm going to do 20 years. And then one deployment to Afghanistan was enough.
I was just going to say Army infantry will change that real quick. Like,
yeah, it's humbling. Let me tell you. I mean, it sounds good on paper. Like, yeah, I'm going to kick down doors and shoot shit. The first thing I want to clarify, I never kicked in a single door. And the biggest reason for that is because the houses they live in don't have doors. So that's the biggest reason. But it definitely, when you're there, it humbles you and kind of the reality of it really starts to set in real quick, especially when I don't want to get too into depth here or into detail, but when bad things start to happen to people, then you're like, yeah, I mean, is this something I want to do for 20 years? And it's not. And you know, you're proud of what you did. I'm proud of what I did. But I don't need to make a lifelong career out of that. And then I had just decided I have other aspirations in life too. Like I actually want to go have a full civilian career. So, and here I am. So,
no
regrets there. Yeah, man, it's cool. And I commend you for doing 8 years because I probably would have absolutely lost my mind if I did 8 years. However, if I would have stayed in, I would be let me see. I went in 2011, so it would be going on 14 years for me. So
I would have retired last. I would have retired last year.
Damn.
2023 would have been 20 for me.
Damn. Okay, so you're not much older than me at all. I was like, we got to be close in age. So.
Yeah. No, I'm an 85 kid.
Oh, okay. I'm 92. So 7 years behind you. But I was looking at it, I'm like, there's no way that you're much older than me. So, and you're not. We're both in our 30s, the prime of our life, if you will.
39 on the 14th of this month.
Nice. And then 39 on November 14th next year too. So, you know.
Yep, exactly. I don't need to pass the 40 threshold.
Nah, man, 39 forever.
I couldn't be
exactly.
still in my 20s.
Yeah, Brian's still a young buck over here at the ripe old age of 28.
When I was inputting my guys' ages and the one popped up from 2005, I just went, no.
Yeah.
Okay, that hurts. That hurts.
That's right. I have people. Obviously, Brian and I both have regular day jobs. This podcast is not our day job. But a couple of the people that work for me, I have guys born in 98, 99, and I'm like, Jesus. So I was like a bunch of children. Or then I have guys like I have one guy who's born in 2003, and I was like, man, you weren't even alive when September 11th happened, which is such a weird way of
like that's
placing history
benchmark, but yeah.
You got guys joining. You got guys joining the military that were not alive when 9/11 happened.
Correct. Yeah.
And that, in my mind, is like insane.
Well, and that's the thing, and it's weird to think that I was involved in the conflict that resulted from 9/11. 11 years almost after it happened. So that's
and I joined in me too. I joined in 2003, so I was 2 years. Like 2 years right out of it. So
well, dude, I mean, and like the beginning of the prime of your career, I should say, was during the entirety of the surge of Iraq. So and the surge of Iraq, I'm very familiar with too. I was in 3rd Infantry Division in the Army, and they were a huge part of the surge in Iraq. My battalion specifically. So it's not lost on me what insanity Iraq was. And honestly, as insane as our deployment to Afghanistan was, I obviously was in with guys who were in during the surge of Iraq, and I hear stories of like Fallujah and all things like I'm just it's absolutely insane to me. I'm like, you know what? I'm glad I didn't go to Iraq. So
No, that's one of the guys that we played with Buffalo that we played against last night. One of their captains was in Fallujah during the initial invasion.
Yeah, the Fallujah is every time I hear Fallujah, it makes the hair on my neck stand up, and I
Yep.
wasn't even there. Just the stories you hear. And I mean, for people like Brian, I mean, anybody, you can go Google things that happened in Fallujah or look up videos on YouTube if you're feeling real frisky.
Yep.
Fallujah was no joke. And I can't even imagine. And I only commend people who were a part of it. It's just insanity to me because I know how our deployment was. And I mean, we saw a lot during our time in Afghanistan, but I would never compare it to what guys who went through the Iraqi surge went through ever. So
Yeah, absolutely.
So getting off the somber note, Brian, do you have anything else that you would like to add or ask?
No, I was just gonna say I don't want to hold up Dibs too much if you got stuff to do. I mean, it is Sunday, so if you want to spend time with family, we certainly won't hold you up.
I say we still got another.
Yeah, whatever you guys want to do. I'll bounce whenever you guys want me to. I've got the girlfriend and I have our anniversary getaway. It was actually on the 1st, but we were getting ready for the home opener, so we're gonna go disappear to somewhere off the grid for the evening. So
nice, man. You absolutely should.
Yeah.
Give yourself a mental break.
Yeah.
It's no joke. I tell people they'll ask me like last night, like, how you doing, Dibs? I'm like, don't know if I want to throw up or if I'm excited. I have no idea. And I'll tell people like I keep such a mental high note throughout it. And I'm like, it's not like I'll give my man card if people want. It is not unheard of after some of these games for me on the drive home just to like break down for 10 minutes of all right, all the emotions gone. All right, let's get it out and we're ready to go for the next week. So
all right. Well, if you want to stick around, we'll take a quick break here. I'll get some information from you and vice versa. And that way we can keep in touch. And when Brian and I make it up to Kalkaska for a game, I'll just look for the guy running around the arena having a panic attack, and I'll come join you. We can have one together. It'll be a good time. So
perfect. That'll be me. We'll give you guys the VIP.
Sweet.
That's what I like to hear, man. So yeah, if you just want to stand by for a few minutes, I'll get some stuff from you. Everybody listening or watching, we're going to take a quick break, so bear with us, and we'll be right back. And we're back. Big thank you to Dibs for coming on the show today. That was a great interview with him. I learned a lot. I had a lot of fun. Seems like a really good guy, and we got to get ourselves up to a Kalkaska Battlers game.
Yeah, we'll have to at some point.
So with that being said, we still have some NHL news to cover, so we're going to hop right into it, starting with Brian, who has a breaking story.
Yeah, while we're in the process of recording here, the NHL made a post on social media. The U.S. has unveiled their Four Nations face-off roster. This is a projected roster, I assume, based off the fact that injuries will play a role before the tournament happens in February, but here's what the United States roster will look like. Forwards, Kyle Connor of the Winnipeg Jets, Cole Caulfield from the Montreal Canadiens, Jack Eichel of the Vegas Golden Knights, Jake Gensel of the Tampa Bay Lightning, Jack Hughes from the New Jersey Devils, Clayton Keller from the Utah Hockey Club, Chris Kreider from the New York Rangers, Dylan Larkin of the Detroit Red Wings, Austin Matthews from the Toronto Maple Leafs, JT Miller of the Vancouver Canucks, Jason Robertson from the Dallas Stars, Brady Tkachuk of the Ottawa Senators, and Matthew Tkachuk of the Florida Panthers. On defense, John Carlson from the Washington Capitals, Brock Faber from the Minnesota Wild, Adam Fox from the New York Rangers, Quinn Hughes from the Vancouver Canucks, Charlie McAvoy from the Boston Bruins, Jacob Slavin of the Carolina Hurricanes, and Zach Werenski of the Columbus Blue Jackets. The three goalies they're going to carry: Connor Hellebuck of the Winnipeg Jets, Jake Ottinger of the Dallas Stars, and Jeremy Swayman of the Boston Bruins. This roster looks like a fucking create a roster on NHL 25.
Jesus.
That is a pretty stacked team. In the past, we've had in the past international tournaments, although it feels like it really has been 8 years since we've really had one that's had NHL players. The U.S. rosters didn't shape up quite as well as the Canadian ones, and that's being very generous. This roster looks stacked. Canada's going to have a great roster to ice up front, but as far as a complete team goes, I'd love to see what they're going to put up against the U.S. because this team looks unbelievable.
That's like a nauseatingly stacked team.
Yeah, I mean they'll have so many options. I mean, if they really wanted to put a "fuck you, we're going to score when we want" line out there, they could do something like Matthew Tkachuk with Austin Matthews and Jack Eichel, and just tell every other team to go get to pound sand. There's nothing about this team I don't like. There's good veteran experience in there. There's guys who have won Stanley Cups in there. I mean, just some of the highest level talent that this league has to offer, and they're all-American players. Really excited to see what these guys are going to do in February.
I like your analogy of this looks like a created team on NHL.
It does. It's unbelievable. So, I mean, there's just nothing to not like about this team. And I think the goaltending is going to be fun too. You're going to have, I would assume Swayman will be the extra there. Hellebuck and Jake Ottinger are just another tier of goaltender. But one of those two, I would assume it'll be Hellebuck is probably going to get the reins to the team for the most part, but I'm just excited to see what they're going to do with this group of players. I mean, there's just so much talent, especially up front, but even on the back end. I mean, John Carlson's a Stanley Cup winner. He's a great veteran player. Quinn Hughes, Charlie McAvoy, Brock Faber, all young stars. Adam Fox is an excellent defender. Jacob Slavin. I mean, there's no visible weak points on this team. And so I'm excited to see what kind of damage they're going to do.
I think it's going to be a bloodbath, and I'm very excited about it.
Yeah, I can't wait for the Olympics in 2026 either. But
yeah, me either.
I don't think I've seen anything with Canada's roster, so I'm looking forward to seeing that. But yeah,
I'm very intrigued to what they're going to put up against the U.S. So we'll see.
Yeah, and the Sweden and Finland teams won't be anything to laugh at either. But just in comparison, I mean, Canada's got all the best players in the world up front. But I don't know. The goaltending is what's going to hurt Canada once we see that roster. But right now, we're just not in a spot where Canada's put out the best of the best goalies like we were 10 years ago when they still had Luongo and Carey Price and prime Marc-Andre Fleury. They don't really have those weapons like they used to now.
Yeah. We'll see. It should be interesting. Should make for a fun tournament.
Yeah, it should be good. But I wanted to at least run down that roster and just kind of look at it in awe since we got a chance to see it while we were recording.
Yes, sir.
All right. Now let's talk about the stuff we did have planned. The big one coming out in the last few days, Connor McDavid will be out for a few weeks for the Oilers. I didn't see an exact timetable on his return, but for the Oilers who have already not had a great start to this year, this just has to feel like kind of getting kicked while you're down. I mean, this is a tough blow for a team that's just spun its tires to start the season. The scoring hasn't really been there for anybody. The defensive play has been lackluster. Stuart Skinner has been terrible. And so for an Oilers team that projected out of the gate to be among the Stanley Cup favorites, it feels similar or worse to the start that they had last year.
Well, let me ask you this. Especially now that it's a new season, I'm over the hype of the Panthers winning the cup and everything. I've had time to go back and look at things and then look at how the season started. I know before I say, I want to preface this by saying I know that the team did a 180 when Knobloch took over the team. But as far as them being Stanley Cup contenders, do you think that this team is a team, the Oilers are just a team that got hot at the right time as far as the playoffs went last year, and now we're seeing what they actually are?
I don't think so. I think part of it was Stuart Skinner getting hot in the later rounds of the playoffs. But after the Oilers hired Knobloch last year, the Oilers were among the best teams in the league as far as their record goes. They were among the best teams in the league for the rest of the season. So I don't think it's that. But a few things in the playoffs definitely fell in their favor. Demko going down for Vancouver helped. Vancouver probably wins that series with Demko, but in the conference final, they hold down the fort against one of the heaviest teams in the league in Dallas, and then they take the Panthers to 7 games in the finals. You don't do that by accident, but again, a few things did fall into their place later in the season. But as far as the progression and the skill of the team, I mean, for the majority of last year, they were among the best teams in the league. And of course, Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl and Zach Hyman all had incredible years last year, which definitely contributes to that. But that becomes the expectation of the team. I mean, McDavid is obviously the best player in the league, and Draisaitl's right up there. But when you have Hyman scoring, what was it, 60 goals or whatever last year, or 50 goals it was, the expectation needs to be there, or the expectation is there, and so the team's performance this year needs to be the same way, and it just hasn't been. They've been a mess in their own end. They can't score for shit. Stuart Skinner's been unusable. I mean, they went to Pickard a couple nights ago, and that got them a win, and everything's just not working. They're in a similar boat kind of where Colorado is, where they need to start getting a save, otherwise the season's going to be a wash.
My biggest thing is, how do you go from being Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Final to this? That's my biggest. That's where I'm so confused right now. They were absolutely lethal. That's my thing. Like, I was nervous in that Stanley Cup after Game 3. I was nervous the rest of that series as a Panthers fan, and now this looks like a team you don't even have to worry about making the playoffs. It's like, what happened during the offseason?
Sometimes the magic goes. I mean, they lose Holloway and Broberg to offer sheets, which, not that those two were game-breaking players, but Broberg really played a big role later in the playoffs for them last season, I thought. And Dylan Holloway was still a great fit on the team. So I don't want to say that those two ruined the team chemistry or anything like that, but something's just missing for them. And ultimately it's the season's headed down a very dark path very quickly. And McDavid now being out for a few weeks will only probably exacerbate that.
Well, here's my other thing I want to add, and I know it's not like he's retiring next year or anything. I know we're not even close to that. But my concern is McDavid is not getting any younger. And this guy, in order for his name to be cemented as the greatest of all time, he needs to win a Stanley Cup. And
yeah, I mean, he's only 27 though.
No, I know that's what I'm
26.
saying. I know he's not in any danger of retiring, but it's like, is he just going to sit here and waste away in Edmonton? That's the concern. And last season you really thought that was the year, and now it's just like, here we are back to the same old Oilers again. So it's just, I think if you're a fan of McDavid, it's cause for concern. Granted, he is injured right now, but the rest of the team can't perform with him, much less without him.
Yeah, we'll see what happens for him, but sometimes it's just the way destiny is. I mean, there's no rule that says the best players have to win a Stanley Cup, like that it's a requirement before they retire. I mean, look at Jerome McGinley, one of the best players to ever lace up skates ever anywhere, and his name's not on the Stanley Cup. Sometimes it just happens, and so
Yeah.
hopefully that's not what we're looking at the end of McDavid's career. But until this team finds a way to improve, mostly their goaltending situation has been their biggest issue. I think when you start getting saves and you can build momentum because the puck's not in your net every 10 minutes, I think the rest of the things will iron themselves out. I know they're not the most loaded up defensively either, but again, if you're getting saves, you can kind of start to put the other pieces together. And so I think a lot of their issues will be fixed with solving their goaltending woes. And I don't know how they do that, but you got to start somewhere.
Yeah.
So definitely a tough loss for the Oilers. Another team who's really going to be feeling the injury bug is the Carolina Hurricanes, with Freddie Anderson being out for a few weeks. I don't know what the extent of his injury is, but he's off to a really good start with Carolina this year. I think he's second in the league in goals against average. And so let's see. Let me pull up the stats. Yeah, he's actually the league leader in goals against, 149 goals against average and a 941 save percentage. He's second only to Lucas Dostal in Anaheim, who we'll get to a little later because he's unbelievable right now. But for the Canes, I've dogged on the Hurricanes a lot since this show's inception. I've truly never felt that they are a legitimate contender. I've always thought they've been kind of a pretender, and it seems like we go down the same path with them every year, but they're committed to trying to win with this group, and with Freddie Anderson being out. Obviously, it's not a season-ending injury, but you hope this doesn't kill the momentum of the great start that they've had to this season.
I agree with you. I always feel like Freddie Anderson, no matter where he is or who he plays, I just feel like that guy can never catch a break.
He is very injury prone, it does seem like.
Yeah, so I mean, I feel bad for him in that sense, but it's like for the Canes, man. Well, we talked about this too. I think it was in our East preview. Either that or it was right after the playoffs, but it's like, on paper, this team should be winning cups, and they're very much so underperforming.
I've
So
always thought it's the coach, but that's a hill that most
and
people
that's
won't
what I think
die
it
on.
is too. I think it's Brindamore. And I mean, I know you and I are NHL coaches, but I mean, on paper, they have a great team. So where does the issue lie? And naturally, my first place to point the finger is the coaching. So I don't know. Maybe I'm
Speaking
an
of
idiot, but
Speaking of Carolina's hot start, though, they do pick up a 8-2 win the other night over the Boston Bruins, who have tripped and stumbled and lost embarrassingly as in so many exciting ways this year. To come out of the gate, they get the Swayman drama solved, and they come out of the season with one of their worst start in the last, I think, 6 or 7 seasons. So you watch a lot of their games. What have you seen that just simply hasn't worked for the Bruins? And yeah, how you feeling right now?
well, how am I feeling? Annoyed, pretty much. I know I sit here and say this as a Bruins fan who's currently wearing a Blue Jackets sweatshirt, but I it's very frustrating to me. First of all, I think it's time for Montgomery to go already. We talked about this, I believe it was last week. I think he's lost the room. I really do. I think a big problem here is Jim Montgomery. And you can see it during, I don't want to call it an altercation, but the incident that occurred between him and Brad Marchand on the bench. When your captain won't look at you when you're trying to give him a pointer, or well, that's how we'll nicely put it, is give him pointers. Your captain won't even acknowledge you. That's a problem and a sign of no respect. And I'm not going to put that on the players. I know we know how Brad Marchand could be in the past, and sometimes little bits of the old Marchand trickle through. But I think Montgomery has lost the room, and I think he came in and he looked really good. Not last season, but the season before, because the Bruins were absolutely stacked on that team and played out of their mind. And that had very little to do with him because it was a team that could coach themselves. Now you don't have Patrice Bergeron anymore, which is a huge thing for the team overall. You don't have Linus Ullmark anymore. You're relying solely on Jeremy Swayman. It took them forever and a day to get him signed. So that kind of alters the morale, especially with Jeremy Swayman there. That kind of alters morale in the locker room and with Swayman. There's just a number of factors going on here. This team isn't clicking. They're not firing on all cylinders. It looks like a chemistry issue still. And I think I said that at some point during the end of last season too. Something is missing, and I'm still not sure what it is, but I do think a big part of the problem is Jim Montgomery. I don't think he has what it takes to be a coach in the National Hockey League. And I know everybody liked him in Dallas, but I know he had issues in Dallas, like personal issues. But I don't think this is the right fit, man. I don't know where else to look. There's so many things going wrong here.
Fair enough. It's fascinating. I mean, I expect them to take a little step back this year, but more so in the way where they just don't have as many of the hot stretches where they're not winning 5 of 7, and instead they win 3, maybe 4 of 7. And I didn't think that they would take a step back in the fashion that they're playing like crap and that there's drama in the locker room and all this. And again, having their worst start in 6 or 7 years. I mean, I know each of the 2 previous seasons they've had incredible starts, but it just I don't know, something just seems to be amiss for the Bruins right now, and it'll be interesting to see as we approach the end of this calendar year what they do to try and correct it, and if they can.
Well, I'm sorry to cut you off, but I'm going to make a bold prediction here and say if this team's not in a playoff spot come trade deadline, or maybe even before, I'd say come the All-Star break, Montgomery's out the door. I guarantee it.
Yeah, well, if they don't right this ship soon, if they keep spiraling here, and it's worth noting they won, was it last night they won? But if they don't right this ship soon, I don't think he makes it to the end of the calendar year.
I won't disagree with you on that. And here's one thing I want to point out too, because I don't want people listening to think I'm just being grumpy. A bad start to the season doesn't always dictate how the entirety of the season is going to go. And a perfect example of that last year, the Edmonton Oilers. Sometimes you just need to change. So just because you start the season rough doesn't mean that's how the whole season's going to go. But where do you begin to right the ship here? That's what I'm trying to figure out. Is it the team underperforming because they're not capable of performing to standard? Or is it a coaching issue? Is it a morale issue? What is happening? And it's something in the locker room. It's not something on the ice. I think it's a team chemistry issue.
Fair enough. Well, as the saying goes, it's getting late early, and it seems to be getting late early for the Bruins. So we'll see how they continue to traverse this season, but we'll see if they can manage to get the ship righted before too long. Another team I want to talk about their start, but in the opposite manner. We've talked about, we just touched on the Canes and the hot start they've had. Last week we talked about the Jets and the incredible start that they've had. They're 10-1 right now. And obviously the Florida Panthers have had an excellent start to the season. Doesn't seem like they've had much cup hangover, which is good. The Washington Capitals, first place in the Metro, 8-2 to start this year. I'm starting to wonder what the hell changed there that they've just decided that they're an excellent hockey team again. They had a slow start for Ovi this year, but now he's starting to put them in the net. They just pick up a huge, I think it was 7 or 8-2 win over the Blue Jackets last night. Just a really good start to the season for Ovi and the Caps. And they went from a team where I thought they were for sure going to be in the basement of the league this year. And the season is still very young, but the Caps are just rolling out of the gate.
Yeah, and you know what? I'm kind of eating my words right now because I said before that when we did our East preview, I said, the only thing Caps fans have to look forward. Oh, am I good?
Yeah, you're good now.
Can you? Oh, okay. I said during the East preview that the only thing Caps fans will really have to look forward to this season is the OV goal chase, which still remains true. However, I'm sort of eating my words because the Caps look great right now. I didn't even think that they were going to be a playoff contender, but they look great out of the gate. Ovi's doing good. So he's having a better start to the year than he did last season. I felt like he started off very slow last year, and it started to make people kind of question, oh, maybe he's not going to reach that goal plateau. But here we are. They look really good. And granted, I know it was an 8-2 win last night, but let's keep in mind it was Columbus. Granted, Columbus has looked better this year than they did last year. So,
yeah.
But I'm not discrediting what the Caps have done. They do look dangerous right now. They're playing really well. They're firing on all cylinders. It's just a matter of, is this just a fluke? Are they just on a hot stretch, or is this going to stay this way for the season?
Yeah, I'm not sure, and I should have brought this up before the show. I might be able to pull it up in a sec, but they may have a good PDO, and for those of you who don't know, that's just your save percentage combined with your shooting percentage. It's partially used to kind of determine if a team's hot play is a result of them being lucky, or if a bad team's play is a result of bad luck. But for the Caps, they're kind of doing this in an unconventional way. Their special teams isn't outstanding. Their PK is 83.3%, which is pretty good. Their power play is god awful right now at a shocking 9.1%, which is usually where they cash in, especially with Ovi. I mean, like you look at a team like Winnipeg, their power play percentage right now is 45%, which is unsustainable. But again, it's lethal to start the year. But you look at some of the best teams in the league right now. Florida, 25.7 on the power play. Vegas, 32.3, which is really good. Jersey, 28.9. Minnesota, 24.2. These teams are about a quarter better on the power play. New York Rangers, 27.6. So, and Carolina's at 29. To see such a single-digit power play percentage on one of the top 5 teams in the league is absurd. I mean, the only other team in the league with a single-digit power play percentage is Buffalo at 8.6%, and they're 5th from last in the league. So it's kind of, and as far as points go, they're actually tied for second last. They're just on the list. They're 5th from last. But for Washington, it's been an unconventional start to the year in many facets, but ultimately they're winning games and Ovi scoring, and that's, if they're going to have any kind of success, that's going to be part of the recipe is relying on what can Ovi do and what can the 2 goalies do. So far, so good for them.
Now we'll see how it plays out. I will say they have been fun to watch, so I'm excited to see where it goes.
I thought we would just be watching Ovi too, but yeah, if they can play well, that it's just as fun. Now I want to move over and talk about the league's scoring race right now, as we've had a really explosive start to the year. A lot of blowout games, a lot of high scoring affairs. We're about every team's played between 9 and 14 games to start this season already. Right now we have a really tight scoring race. At the top, we have a 3-way tie with Kirill Kaprizov of the Wild, Cale Makar of the Avalanche, and Sam Reinhart of the Panthers. Goodness. All tied at 21 points apiece. Of course, Makar leads the league in assists, and Reinhart is leading the league in goals. Kaprizov's high on both those lists, but they're all tied at 21 points apiece. And kind of a different story for each of those three teams, though. When you take a look, Makar is up there, but Colorado's really just having a down year, and we addressed that last week, so we won't dig into that. But fascinating to see he's still the driving force on that team. McKinnon's right behind him with 20 points. Reinhart is kind of what you would expect. He's an absolute weapon, especially with his shot. Leads the league, tied for the league lead in goals with Heischer and Caulfield right now. But the Panthers are as good as you would expect the defending Stanley Cup champs to be. Kaprizov for the Wild has been really good this year. They've had a pretty good start, much better than I would think what most people expected of them going into this year. But if he can stay healthy and his line keeps rolling with Zuccarello and Rossi, I think he'll be among the favorites in the Hart Trophy race as we approach the end of the year later on. But it's just crazy to see all these high scoring affairs and to see guys with 20 or more points so soon into the season. Nathan McKinnon and Mark Stone are tied for second in points with 20 each. And again, Stone right now, Vegas is playing out of their minds too. So it's crazy to see how many goals are going in to start this season. Just so many high scoring games.
That's not a bad thing, though. We talked about it too. The absolute goal frenzies that we've been seeing are incredible.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's just so unconventional. I mean, you and I have both been watching hockey only for about 11 years now, but it's just, we went from where most of the games were 2-1, 3-1, 3-2, 4-3, like 4-3 would be a high scoring game. And now 4-3, a 4-3 score is like an average game now. And the high scoring games are like 7-2 Washington last night. It's just weird, this kind of transitional period the league's in.
Yeah, but it's certainly not a bad one. One thing I do want to point out is I do have to commend Kirill Kaprizov, because I hear about him a lot, but I hear about him from you because you're a Minnesota Wild fan. But Kirill Kaprizov, you don't really hear his name around the league a whole lot. You hear names like Cal Makar or Nathan McKinnon. You hear names like this around the league because they've played on these juggernaut teams. The Wild haven't been that team, but so essentially it makes Kaprizov seem like he's the sleeping giant, when in reality, he's one of the best players in the game right now. And I just feel like he's not getting enough of the credit he deserves. So I just want to point out, people need to pay more attention to not just Kaprizov, but the Minnesota Wild as a whole, because they're playing pretty well right now too. So they're exceeding expectations. Kaprizov is playing exactly how we thought he was going to play. He's a phenomenal hockey player. No surprise here, but the Wild as a whole are looking very good right now. And that's a big thing. And it's like you said, Gustafsson realized, hey, I'm an NHL goalie and I can make saves. And now he does. So,
yeah. And it's going to be important for him to continue to do that this year for Minnesota. I mean, again, this team's ceiling is a legitimate playoff contender, and they're capable of going far if they just get the solid team play they have, but they're going to need Gus to be great this year. This is Flowers' last season. He's visibly taken a step back in the skill department. I mean, obviously he looked great against Pittsburgh the other night, but I don't think he's had a game this season where he's had a .900 save percentage for the game. And so while he's slowed down a little, Gus needs to continue to right the ship, but the defensive play's been good. If they can keep Spurgeon healthy, that's going to be a big one for them. It's part of what killed them last season. They need him and Brodin to stay healthy all year. Brock Faber's quickly evolving into one of the best defenders in the league. And his pair, he seems to hold up his pairing with Jake Middleton pretty well when they pair the two of them together. And up front, they're starting to kind of grow an identity a little bit. I think the physical play of Hartman and Foligno and Trennan has been very good for them this year. But the line with Kaprizov and Zuccarello has always been good because of the two of them. But as Marco Rossi continues to develop into his role with that team and kind of take over that number one center spot, that line is going to quickly grow into one of the best in the league. And so while Eric Sitnek and Matt Boldy try and find a legitimate winger, and it's never going to be Marcus Johansson long term, but as that line continues to grow too, Matt Boldy's quietly becoming one of the better players, better young players in the league. And so there's a lot of building blocks for this team here. But to go back to the original point about Kirill, I mean, let's face it, if he played in New York or Boston or Toronto, he'd be the face of the league. He's just an incredibly gifted hockey player. He's so fast. His footwork is unbelievable. His vision for the game is great. I mean, he makes some passes that he makes multiple highlight reel passes a game. It's just crazy to watch him move on the ice. And obviously being a fan of the team, it's a little more obvious to me, but he's just so criminally underrated, and it's nice to see him getting the notice he kind of deserves now. As I hope he stays healthy and continues to have this MVP caliber season that he's starting right now.
Well, I just feel like, as someone who's not a Minnesota Wild fan, I feel like you just don't hear about the Minnesota Wild in general.
Because they usually suck.
Dude, they don't. I mean, they're not. They haven't been playoff contenders, fine, but they haven't been Blue Jackets, San Jose, Anaheim.
No, they haven't been basement bad, but the problem is
Yeah.
they've been stuck in no man's land where they're not horrible, but they're not elite. And so they're just, you see a lot of people call them like Minnesota because it's just kind of where they are. They're always stuck in the middle. And so if they continue this hot start and have a, finish with like a top 10 record in the league, maybe they'll get some of the love they deserve. But again, you don't really deserve some of that love until you can translate it to playoff success. So I as a fan of the team, I hope they sustain this, and I hope Kirill sustains this and has an MVP 100-point kind of season, but only time will tell.
My biggest thing is that this is a team much like, we'll say Toronto, for example. They could go 0-82 for the season and sell out every single game because the fan base is that loyal. It's such an important part of the league. Even if they are dog shit, which they're not, but even if they were, you don't hear them talked about enough, other than I feel like on our show, and it's because you're a Minnesota Wild fan, and we try not to do it too much because we don't want our show to sound biased, even though I feel like almost every episode we talk about the Wild, the Bruins, and the Panthers, but I think that's just given their positions in the league right now.
And the Jackets.
Yeah, well, the Jackets got some work to...
Oh, hey, we should probably mention we were at the Blue Jackets game the other night.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'm sitting here wearing a Blue Jackets hoodie.
Yeah, we were. We went down with our wives, and yeah, it was a good time. They won
2-0.
Was it 2 or was it 3-0?
No, it was 2-0.
It was. That's right. They didn't get the other empty net. They just missed it.
I wanted the Chile goal, but they didn't get it.
That's right. So yeah, they had 1 goal waved off too. I think that's why I was thinking 3. But
oh, that's right. Yeah.
No, that was fun. Elvis, after losing a shutout last Monday night against the Oilers with 20 seconds to go, has a shutout going late in the third period against the Islanders. And at a certain point, you kind of see the team just forget about the extra empty net goal and just locking it down so Elvis can preserve the shutout. They get the 2-0 win over the Islanders. A great game to be at. It was a ton of fun. And you and I killed some jumbo hot dogs.
We did. We always joke and say on here, never eat the jumbo hot dogs at Nationwide Arena. Turns out that was just a one-time fluke for Brian because we both had 2 of them. And aside from getting fatter, we survived. So
my wife got me a Blue Jackets beanie that I wanted to. I was too cheap to go spend the money on it, and while we were getting hot dogs, she ran in the team store and grabbed it for me. So she's a rock star.
Time out on that though. I got to address this. I don't care.
Go ahead. I know what you're going to say.
How much money you do or don't make in this world, the prices they charge in that fucking shop at the Nationwide Arena are fucking ridiculous.
A crime, yeah. For what it's worth, the hat was like $40, which I looked at it and almost vomited on the price tag. So that's why I didn't buy it. But my wife's a team player, and she could see it all over my face that I wanted the hat.
This sweatshirt that I'm wearing, I'm not even gonna say. I'll tell you off air how much I spent on this hoodie because it's fucking stupid. But it's ridiculous. I don't understand. And I could have been like, oh, I'll just go online and get this for cheaper. But I was at the arena and plus it was free. Remember, it was freezing.
It was cold as shit. The reason I actually wanted the hat in the first place was we walked into the arena. I didn't wear a hat to the game because it was pretty nice out on Wednesday. It was pretty comfortable. It was 60s here. It wasn't terrible. So I was like, all right, well, I shouldn't need a hat to go to the game. We walked into the arena and after we scanned our tickets and got up the escalator to the main concourse, I was like, I looked at my wife and looked back at you. It's like, holy shit, is it cold in here? I was like, maybe I'll need a hat after all. So that's the only reason I even went in the team store to begin with.
Yeah.
And then I saw that hat and saw the price tag. I was like, forget it. But my wife was not letting me fall off that ship. So,
dude. Yeah. They need to get it together with what they're charging for shit. And granted, it's all nice stuff. It's all.
No, it is. It is nice stuff. It's just the prices are. At some point, we need to have a conversation at what point we're going to start, shaking everybody out for their lunch money if they want to buy something at a game. I mean, a hat being $40 is a crime. T-shirts shouldn't be even more than $30, much less hats. So
another thing I want to point out about that too. Look, I know this is now 2024, but back in 2018, Kristen and I went to, for those of you who don't know, Kristen's my wife. You should know that at this point, though. But my wife and I went to Boston for a week, and we went to 2 Bruins games while we were there at TD Garden. In that pro shop, in the Boston pro shop, I bought, you remember personally how much shit I bought in that store.
You came home with a haul.
I think I spent less than like $370 total. And I got a ton of shit. Now, if you go to this store in Columbus, $350 might get you 2 things. That's how expensive stuff is.
It's like, that's like a jersey and maybe a t-shirt.
Yeah. So I was just like, I don't mind spending the money at all if I'm getting my money's worth. But dude, for what some of this stuff, some of the prices they're charging for some of these things, like $40 for a hat is absolutely ridiculous. A hat should be no more, in my opinion, than $25. And even that's pushing it. But $25, I'm like, okay, fine.
Well, and we should probably point out here that it's not just Columbus that's guilty of this. It's just that's where we were.
Yeah, but it's just,
but like we were at the Xcel Energy Center in Minnesota a couple weeks ago too, and I couldn't believe some of the prices on stuff in there. Like it's irritating how it is, and obviously things are marked up in the team stores themselves because they're physical stores, so they need to have a little extra money to keep the lights on, pay the employees, and I get that. But I mean, even if you go to like the hat I got was a 47 brand hat, so and if you go to the website, it's like the same price. So you're not. Yeah. It's not just the store gouging. It's just the prices of the items are just expensive as hell for no reason.
Although sometimes it is the store gouging you.
It is. Sometimes it is. The jerseys are ridiculous. They're all marked up an extra like 40 to $50. Yeah, which is just ridiculous. I mean, again, there's got to be a little markup because it's a physical store. You got to pay to keep the lights on. You have employees, you got to pay, but holy crap. So
that reminds me, last episode I said I hadn't been able to see the Fanatics jerseys in person.
Yeah, did you look at one?
Yeah, I did. I mean, it's pretty much what you said. It's same quality, I would argue, as the Adidas jerseys. You're just not getting the spongy looking pattern on the shoulders, but I don't see a problem with them at all. I think they're nice jerseys. So
yeah, like I said, overall, it feels like it's, other than the shoulder material, it feels like it's the same thing. So
yeah,
it is what it is. I'm sure eventually down the road I'll get one. It's just hard for me to let go of my Adidas. Well, not let go of my Adidas ones, but let go of the fact that they don't make them anymore, put it that way.
I think all the team's uniforms though just look goofy now without the sponge pattern on the shoulder. I think that was a great look. And I think
I don't know if it's that they don't look good without it. It's just we're so used to this style of jersey. Our brains are trained to expect the spongy shoulders. I think over time we'll grow used to it because when you remember the Reebok ones and all the predecessors never had that. So I think it's just something our brains got trained to being used to, and now it's not there. So it just feels weird. I'd say give it a season or two and you won't even think twice about it.
Probably, but I mean, we had the Adidas jerseys for what, 7 years. So yeah. I mean, you do get used to it. So
yep. And I think the Reeboks before that were for 10 years. So, I mean, it was an adjustment getting used to the spongy shoulders after they came out. So I think we'll get used to them not being there before too long.
Yes, sir. All right.
So what else do we got left here? We kind of went off on a tangent about the store, but it was worth mentioning that we were at the game and it was a good time. So drive down there was pretty good too.
Yeah, no, it was good.
And, it was easy for me. I didn't have to do any of it. So
yeah. Well, I did the drive there. Wife did the drive back, Yep.
All right. Last thing I want to talk about before we go. This one I heard, and I, for the life of me, can't remember which podcast they briefly touched on this, but this is something I've been a strong believer in for a little while now. Sidney Crosby is approaching the end of his career. I would assume we probably only see him for another couple of seasons. Do you think that the NHL should waive, or the Hockey Hall of Fame should waive its mandatory 3-year waiting period after retirement and allow Sid to get in the season following his career? Do you think he should be eligible right out of the gate of retirement to be in the Hall of Fame?
I think he should be eligible before he retires. So here's my thing. I don't see a world where this doesn't happen anyway, but yes, I do think they should waive it.
Yeah. I mean, here's the thing. So for those of you who don't know, the Hockey Hall of Fame has a 3-year waiting period after after a player's retirement, in order for them to be eligible for the Hall of Fame, a very small small group of players have been the exception to this rule. Think of guys like Wayne Gretzky, I believe Bobby Orr was in there. There's not a lot of guys that have made it in. I mean, you really have to be among the best of the best. There's a huge push for Jaromir Jagr to meet this requirement, as he's been out of the NHL for a long time now, and he's only been playing overseas in Czechia just to keep his hometown team, to keep them upright, to keep them financially stable. And so I think it's only fair. First of all, I think for Jagr, I think it's only fair that he gets that waiting period waived too. He should already be in, and it's a crime that he's not. But I think for a player like Sid, and you look at his career winnings, I mean, just the NHL alone, he's won 3 Stanley Cups. This is just a quick Google search. I'll tell you, he's won 3 Stanley Cups, including the Conn Smythe Trophy twice. The Art Ross Trophy, he's won it twice. 2 goal scoring titles, 2 MVPs, 3 Lindsay Awards. He won the Marc Messier Leadership Award in 2010. He was Canada's Athlete of the Year in 2009, which is kind of cool. He's also won now 2 Olympic golds, including the overtime winner against the U.S. in 2010. He won a world championship with Canada at the IHF championships. I think that was 2016 or sorry, 20. It was either 2015 or 2018. It was one of the years they were out in the first round. But he won a world championship. He won the World Cup, and he's one of one in that club. He's won all of these different tournaments, and he's won 3 Stanley Cups, 2 playoff MVPs. I mean, he's done everything you can do in this game, and that's despite the concussion issues he dealt with early in his career. I mean, those were within the first 5 years of his career. He dealt with those god-awful concussions, and now he's destined for a Hall of Fame spot, first ballot regardless. But I mean, why even put on a show and make him wait 3 years? He's one of one as far as how unique he is and his career accolades go. I think I will die on the hill that he should be inducted into the Hall of Fame the moment he retires.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, man. I couldn't have said it any better. I think it's a crime if he's not. We'll put it that way.
Yeah, so. He comes from an era where he is one of only a few true superstars of his generation. You look at guys like him and Malkin and Ovechkin and Fleury. I mean, there were a lot of fantastic elite players that came out of his era playing, guys like Bergeron, Chara, some really, really great players. The tail end of Mike Modano's career, Joe Thornton, Joe Pavelski, a lot of really elite all-time great players, but him and Ovechkin and Malkin and Fleury are one of a very few who are true all-time great superstar players. And we're kind of blessed with this generation of players where there's so many more household names like the Matthews, McDavids, Kaprizovs, Panarins. I mean, you can make a list of generational talents in the league now. He comes from an era where he was the face of the league. And so I think the right thing to do is to induct him into the Hall of Fame the moment he retires and they come up with the next year's inductees. He's got to be on it. There's just no other way around it.
I'm with you. And one thing I want to add real quick. Can you imagine if Ovechkin would have been on Pittsburgh instead of the Capitals?
That would have been crazy if they
Malkin, Crosby, and Ovechkin.
Yeah. I mean, what was it? Malkin went, I think, 2nd overall in the 2004 draft. If it would have been the Penguins winning that draft lottery and getting Ovechkin and then Crosby the next year, that would have been nuts. But again, I mean, look what they did with Crosby and Malkin. They won 3 Stanley Cups. So, I mean, they still did everything right. But those two together would have been fun. Albeit most of Crosby's career, he didn't really have the superstar wingers. They always gave him the players to turn into stars. You think the big one was Pascal Dupuis. They always played together. Now, Duper wasn't a bad player, but he's not Alex Ovechkin either. But no. Crosby has spent a lot of his career making the players around him better. I mean, the 2 cups they won in a row in 2016 and 17, he's playing with Brian Rust and Connor Sheary, and not traditionally guys you would think would be put on a line with a talent like Crosby, but they made it work. And so obviously Crosby played a long time with Chris Kunitz on his wing as well, too. I mean, that goes without saying. And Kunitz, again, another guy, it's not like he was a bum, but he's not super elite talented, but like Chris Kunitz is being on a line with Crosby got him a spot on the 2014 Olympic team, if I remember right too. So it's just kind of crazy how somebody of Sid's skill level is just able to elevate so many guys around him who were good players in their own right, but he really helped take them to that next tier. And so I think I think it goes without saying, and I'm sure they'll do the right thing, but man, it would be a shame if he's not in the Hall of Fame the moment he retires.
I'm right there with you. And I mean, I guess we'll see, but I just want to reiterate, I don't foresee a world where that doesn't happen.
Yeah.
So,
well, and he's still got a couple more years to continue to add to his resume. Who knows? With these international tournaments coming up the next couple seasons, he might have a Four Nations victory and another Olympic gold in his future. You just never know. So he's already done things that nobody else has in this league, and he has the opportunity over the next couple seasons to add even more to that to make his club even more exclusive.
well, according to Brian Hayes, that's not enough. He needs to be chasing Stanley Cups.
Don't start with that,
because three's just not enough.
Three's not enough, especially when two were in a row and two in a row with Conn Smythe trophies. Yeah. Brian Hayes is an idiot.
Yeah, he is. The guy. We're not even gonna get into that. Fuck that guy.
In fact, I think actually on that note, we will wrap. I don't have anything else in here. If there's any questions we had that got sent into us, we can go over those now. But other than that, I got nothing else on the agenda.
I was actually just looking, but I'm having trouble getting into the email where our questions go to right now. Not the Gmail one, but the other one. So, so if there are questions in there, I do apologize, and we will answer them.
If there are, I would say we'll answer them next week. I ain't too worried about it. But we will get those questions in, though. If you're watching on YouTube, leave them in the comment section below. Obviously, don't forget to subscribe as well. But you can send those in. We're on Facebook and on Instagram at Fresh Ice Hockey Podcast. So DM us those questions. Email it to us, freshicehockeypodcast@gmail.com. We'll be more than happy to answer those on next week's episode. We don't have any guests or anything special lined up next week, but that's all right. It'll be
just
nice.
Us two.
Yeah, maybe I'll come over to your house and we'll do a show in person. I don't know. Every time we've tried to do that, it has failed catastrophically. So we'll see how true that holds up, but the option's there.
Yeah, we got to get one of those going now that we have the opportunity to do it. We should. I just want to again say a huge thank you to Dibs again for coming on the show today. That was a fun time for both Brian and myself, and we hope all of you enjoyed it as well. Dibs actually just texted me a few minutes ago. But I will have, if you are not, you should be following us on social media, both on Facebook, Fresh Ice Hockey Podcast, and Instagram at Fresh Ice Hockey Podcast. I will have more information regarding the Kalkaska Battlers on our social media here very soon. And if you're in Michigan or in the driving distance, whatever you consider to be driving distance of Kalkaska, head on over and check out a Kalkaska Battlers game. They sound like a damn good time, and I'm looking forward to going to one myself. As Brian said, if you're watching on YouTube, make sure you like and subscribe, ring the bell for notifications, and make sure if you're just listening, give us a follow on here, leave us a review, and tell all your friends and family about us. Well, let me phrase that. If you like what we're putting out, tell all your friends and family about us. If you don't, just pretend you never heard us. That's all I got on my end, Brian. I don't know if I'm missing anything from you or not. So
nope, that will do it for this week's episode. So we'll bid you adieu until next Sunday, where I'm sure we'll be back with more nonsense and hockey to talk.
Looking forward to it. As always, take care and comb your hair.